The stories of Mahabharata, retold by Sudipta Bhaumik. Welcome, dear friends, to another episode of the stories of Mahabharata. In the last episode, we heard how on the 17th day of the war, Bhim killed Dusashan and kept his promise. We also heard how Arjun killed an unarmed and helpless Karna while he was trying to free his chariot wheel. Duryodhan was sitting alone in his tent, contemplating. 17 days had passed, and in those handful of days he had lost 3 of his greatest warriors, Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. He had embarked upon this war depending solely on the might of these 3, but the Pandavas had shattered his dreams. Bhishma and Drona were old, and neither of them gave their best to fight the Pandavas. Their death didn't perturb Duryodhan as much as the loss of his dearest friend. With Karna's fall, Duryodhan knew the war had already slipped away from his grip. It was only a matter of time before Yudhishthir and his brothers would claim complete victory and take over the throne of Hastinapur. Duryodhan felt lonely, and a deep feeling of despair overwhelmed him as tears rolled down his cheeks. Just then, Kripacharya, Ashwathama, Shalya, and Kritavarma entered his tent. Duryodhan was in no mood to welcome them. He sat still, with his head bowed. Kripacharya broke the silence. My dear Duryodhan, I think the time has come to revisit our options. Kshatriya Dharma says that a warrior should never give up. He must fight till the end. However, the scriptures also dictate that when one is weakened in battle, it is advisable to negotiate a truce with the enemy. If we declare a ceasefire and request the Pandavas, I'm sure Yudhishthir would accept you as the king. Maybe that is our best option at this moment. Duryodhan stood up slowly and faced Kripacharya. You speak like a wise man, and your advice is well-intentioned. Every word you speak is for my good. However, I cannot accept your proposal. Surrender to Yudhishthir and live on his charity? Never! Even if he accepts me as the king of Hastinapur, I'll have to bow to him forever because of his generosity. It is better to die a glorious death in battle than to live like a slave. Besides, why would Yudhishthir agree to such a proposal? Especially after all that we have done to them? Listen to me. Tomorrow, we will fight with all our might. We have gallant warriors like you, and I believe we still have the capability to win. Now, we need to find us a commander-in-chief. Ashwathama, tell me, who do you think should lead us to battle tomorrow? Ashwathama bowed to Duryodhan and said, O king, in my opinion, King Shalya would be the best person to be our next commander-in-chief. He is not only a valiant warrior, but has proved his loyalty to you by abandoning his own nephews and joining your side. Duryodhan was pleased with the suggestion. He walked towards Shalya with folded hands and said, Dear uncle, now is the time to test who is our friend and who is our foe. You are strong and skilled in using various weapons. You are as powerful as Bhishma and Drona, and as wise as Krishna. Now, you are our only hope. I pray you lead us in the battle as our new commander-in-chief. Shalya was delighted with the praise. He touched Duryodhana's head and said, My dear Duryodhana, I am pleased and honored to have won your trust and confidence. I accept your offer to lead the Kaurava army. Tomorrow, you will witness my true might when I destroy the Pandavas. Duryodhana called in the priests to conduct the rituals and ceremony to appoint Shalya, the king of Madra, as the next Kaurava commander-in-chief. When the news reached the Pandava camp, Yudhishthira stepped into Krishna's tent and asked, Duryodhana has appointed our uncle, the great warrior, King Shalya, as his commander-in-chief. How do you suggest we defeat him? Krishna smiled. Shalya is indeed extremely powerful and could prove to be quite dangerous. He is stronger than most of our Pandava warriors. However, I feel you are the best person, perhaps the only person who can kill the Madra king. If you don't go soft on him because he is your uncle, then I am sure tomorrow Shalya will die at your hands. The next morning, the Kaurava generals, Kripa, Kritavarma, Aswathama, Shalya and Sakuni met with Duryodhana and decided that none of them would engage in a one-on-one combat with the Pandavas. During the battle, they would always cover and protect each other and won't allow the Pandavas to break through their defense. With the ringing of the conch shells, the two armies clashed again for the 18th time in the great war of Kurukshetra. The death of Karna boosted the confidence of the Pandavas manifold, and they pounced upon the enemy with such ferocity that the Kauravas felt overwhelmed. Nakul killed Karna's two sons, Chitrasen and Satyasen. Sahadev killed Shalya's son. Bhim attacked Shalya and killed his horses. Shalya struck back at Bhim by hurling a huge spear at him, piercing his armor. Bhim pulled out the spear and hurled it back at Shalya. The spear hit Shalya's charioteer and killed him. Shalya and Bhim fought each other like men possessed, till both were exhausted. Kripacharya came to Shalya's rescue and took him away from Bhim. Yudhishthira called his brothers and said, You have demonstrated your prowess by killing the mightiest of Kaurava warriors. Now, I'd request you to leave Shalya to me. Today, either I will kill him or he will slay me. Satyaki, Drishtadumna, Bhim and Arjun, all of you protect me from any attacks from the sides and my back, but do not interfere when I fight my uncle. With the Pandava brothers supporting and surrounding him, along with Satyaki and Drishtadumna, Yudhishthira attacked Shalya. Krishna's encouragement on the previous night gave Yudhishthira's confidence a big boost. He pounced upon Shalya with such aggressiveness that the Pandava soldiers around him were stunned. That the soft-spoken, kind man who was regarded as the personification of Dharma himself could turn out to be such a valiant and fierce warrior was something they could never imagine. Yudhishthira's arrows killed Shalya's horses and his charioteer. Aswathama came running to rescue him. Yudhishthira continued killing Shalya's warriors with his favorite weapon, the spear. Moments later, Shalya returned in a new chariot and in rapid succession killed Yudhishthira's horses and his charioteer. Bhim couldn't control himself. He hurled his mace at Shalya and destroyed his chariot. Shalya Shalya jumped off the vehicle with a machete and a shield in his hand and ran towards Yudhishthir. Bhim shot a sharp arrow at Shalya and cut the handle of his machete. Yudhishthir knew this was his moment to kill Shalya. He stood on his horseless chariot and pulled out a ferocious arrow from his quiver and engaged it to his bow. He aimed the weapon at Shalya and said, "Uncle Shalya, you abandoned the path of dharma and joined the evil Kauravas, and for that sin, my arrow will kill you now." Saying this, he released the weapon. The arrow zoomed at lightning speed and struck Shalya's chest, tearing it apart. Shalya's lifeless body crashed to the ground. Bereft of a commander-in-chief, the Kaurava army was in total disarray. They began to flee in hordes while the Pandavas went on a killing spree. Duryodhana tried to persuade them back. The war is not over yet. We have great warriors, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Kritavarma. We can still win the war. Come back. King Salva, from the lands of the northern mountains, rode a huge elephant that belonged to Duryodhana and attacked the Pandava soldiers. The elephant trampled the soldiers while Salva showered them with arrows. Drishtadyumna tried to stop the elephant by shooting spears and arrows at it, but the weapons hardly penetrated the beast's thick skin. Salva drove the elephant towards Drishtadyumna to crush him. Drishtadyumna jumped off his chariot to save himself, but as soon as he made his escape, the elephant crushed the chariot along with his charioteer and 4 horses. He, Shikhandi and Satyaki tried to kill the beast by shooting their fiercest weapons at it, but they bounced off the animal, leaving it unscathed. Drishtadyumna picked up a huge mace, jumped up and struck a huge blow to the temple of the elephant. Instantly, the elephant collapsed and crashed to the ground, dead. Salva tried to run away, but Drishtadyumna hurled a spear and beheaded him. The Pandavas kept ravaging the Kaurava army. One by one, their generals and warriors who stood up to fight the Pandavas died at the hands of Bhim, Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev. Shakuni and his son Uluk, along with their followers, tried to launch a bit of a resistance and fought valiantly against Sahadev. Sahadev hurled a spear at Uluk and decapitated him. Furious at the loss of his son, Shakuni shot a fierce weapon at Sahadev, who destroyed the weapon in mid-flight and hurled another spear at Shakuni in retaliation. The spear pierced Shakuni's chest and killed him instantly. It was clear to Duryodhana that he had no hope against the Pandavas. His army had been totally decimated, his generals all killed. He was sure to be the next to face the wrath of the 5 brothers. He picked up his mace and quietly left the battlefield towards Lake Dwaipayan. Upon arriving at the lake, Duryodhana dove into the water and looked for a place to hide. He found a secret cove hidden behind a wall of water. Duryodhana slid into the cove and lay down in the cool waters and thought about what to do next. Ashwatthama, Kripacharya and Kritavarma noticed Duryodhana leave. They were busy fighting the Pandavas and couldn't join him at first. As the sun descended towards the western horizon, Ashwatthama said to Kripacharya and Kritavarma, "There is no point in fighting the Pandavas anymore. Let's find Duryodhana. He might need our help." The 3 warriors mounted their horses and galloped towards the direction where Duryodhana was last seen. As dusk fell on the grounds of Kurukshetra, it was clear that the war had finally come to an end. The soldiers who were still alive dragged themselves back to their tents and prepared to depart for their homes. But for Yudhishthir, as long as Duryodhan was alive, the war was far from over. He ordered his men to find him, but they failed to find him anywhere near the battlefield. Aswathama, Kripacharya, and Kritavarma arrived near the banks of Lake Dwaipayan and looked around for Duryodhan. They knew that this was the best place for him to hide. Aswathama called out, "O King Duryodhan, where are you? Come out of hiding and join us. Together we'll fight Yudhishthir and his brothers and win back your kingdom. Or else we will die and depart for the heavens." Duryodhan answered from his secret cove, "I'm glad you are still alive. I appreciate your concern and your willingness to fight for me. But I'm tired and wounded. Let me rest. Maybe tomorrow I will regain my strength and join you to fight the Pandavas." As Duryodhan was speaking, a band of tribal hunters were passing by. When they heard Duryodhan, they ran to the Pandava camp and informed Yudhishthir about the hiding place. Yudhishthir was elated. He called his brothers and said, "Let's go to Lake Dwaipayan and finish the war." The Pandavas, along with Krishna, mounted their chariots and left for the lake. When Aswathama heard the rumble of the Pandava chariots, he said, "King Duryodhan, the Pandavas have found your hideout. We must leave now." With Duryodhan's permission, the 3 Kaurava warriors mounted their horses and galloped away. Yudhishthir arrived and looked around. He knew Duryodhan was hiding in the lake. He called out, "Duryodhan, come out of hiding and fight. You caused the destruction of your family and now you want to flee? That's not the right thing to do for a Kshatriya. Have you lost all your pride? Don't be afraid. Come out and fight. Defeat us and rule the world. Else die a glorious death and go to the heavens." Duryodhan answered, "I'm not hiding. I only want to rest a while. Don't you worry. When I'm refreshed, I will come out and fight you. However, if you're impatient, go ahead and rule my kingdom. With my family dead, I've lost all interest in the throne. Take it and let me live in peace in the forest. You enjoy the throne of Hastinapur." Yudhishthir, however, was not willing to give up so easily. He stepped towards the lake and said, "Who are you to give us the kingdom? I don't want to accept your charity. You remember when I had asked for 5 villages for us 5 brothers, you said that without a fight you wouldn't give us even a speck of land one could lift on a needle. Now let us fulfill your wish. Come out and fight. We'll defeat you and win the throne with our might." "I can fight, but I don't have chariots, armors, helmets. Besides, you are 5 and I am alone. It will not be a fair fight." "You talk about a fair fight? Where was your sense of fairness when 7 of you warriors surrounded the young Abhimanyu and killed him? This is what I offer you. We will give you whatever you need to fight us. You may pick any weapon of your choice and choose to fight any one of us 5 brothers. If you kill the person whom you choose to fight, the kingdom is yours. Do you agree?" I agree," I will pick the mace as my weapon. You can assign anybody to fight me. Nobody can defeat me with my favorite weapon. Krishna was furious at Yudhishthir. How could you make such a foolish proposal? Select any of your brothers to fight? What if he selects you, or Nakul, or Sahadev? Duryodhan is not only strong, but he is also the most skilled mace warrior in the world. Nobody can defeat him in a fair mace fight. Bhim may be stronger than him, but as far as skill is concerned, Duryodhan is far superior. Bhim stepped forward and said, Brother Yudhishthir, allow me to fight Duryodhan. I have promised to kill him and I want to honor it. Krishna, don't you worry. I know how to defeat Duryodhan. I will kill him for sure. Duryodhan stepped out of the lake with his huge mace in hand. Yudhishthir gestured towards his chariot and said, Put on your armor and helmet and prepare to fight. Bhimsen will fight you on our behalf. Duryodhan strapped on a heavy armor and put on a helmet to protect his head. Then he walked towards Bhim and said, Today I will fulfill your wish to fight me. You will die at my hands. Now pick up your mace and fight me. Bhim flared his nostrils and roared at the top of his voice, Prepare to die, you evil man! Today my mace won't rest until it tastes your blood. He thumped the ground with his feet, and the earth trembled as if an earthquake had struck the area. At that moment, Krishna's brother, Balaram, arrived with a huge plough on his shoulder. He had been visiting several pilgrimages, and when he heard the news that his student Duryodhan was engaged in a mace fight with Bhim, he couldn't leave. Yudhishthira and Krishna welcomed him, and he sat down to watch the fight. Bhim and Duryodhan faced each other like two huge giants. Swinging their maces and thumping their chests, they hurled vicious insults at each other. They moved in circles to fight the right moment to strike. Suddenly, Bhim swung his mace at Duryodhan's head. Duryodhan ducked and avoided the blow. In the next instant, he struck Bhim on his chest and left him breathless. Bhim took a couple of minutes to recover and then attacked Duryodhan with a huge blow on his left side. Duryodhan reeled to absorb the impact and then bounced back. The fight continued with such savagery that the gods in the heavens assembled to watch the spectacle. The maces of the giants struck each other with loud bangs, and sparks flew into the sky. Soon, Duryodhan and Bhim were covered in blood, their armor shattered, helmets broken. Arjun turned to Krishna and asked, Who do you think is the better warrior? Who do you think will win this fight? Krishna looked concerned. Bhim is stronger than Duryodhan, but the latter is more skilled with the mace. To beat him, Bhim cannot stick to the rules. He paused and looked at Arjun meaningfully. During the game of dice, when Duryodhan made the obscene gesture at Draupadi by slapping his thighs, Bhim had promised to kill him by breaking his thighs. Maybe Bhim has forgotten his promise and needs to be reminded. Arjun understood. He moved to a position where he could have direct eye contact with Bhim. Arjun then suggestively patted his thighs with his right palm, and Bhim knew what to do. He crouched and ran towards Duryodhan to strike him. Duryodhan jumped up into the sky to let Bhim pass under him. But the moment Bhim crossed Duryodhan, he turned back and swung his mace to strike a terrible blow to Duryodhan's thighs mid-air. Duryodhan cried out in pain and crashed to the ground with both his thigh bones shattered to smithereens. Bhim began squashing Duryodhan's head under his feet and said, "You evil man! Do you remember how you and your brother Dusashan insulted Draupadi? I kept my promise by drinking Dusashan's blood, and now I honored the second one by breaking your thighs!" Angry Bhim then pressed Duryodhan's head harder to crush it. Yudhishthir ran up to him and said, "Stop, Bhim! You have crushed Duryodhan's thighs and kept his promise. You don't have to humiliate him further. Leave him alone and let him suffer for his sins." Balaram leapt out of his seat with his hands flung out. "Unfair! This is unfair! Bhim hit my pupil Duryodhan below his navel. This is against the rules. I will punish him." Balaram lifted his huge plough over his head and rushed to strike Bhim. Krishna wrapped his arms around Balaram and said, "Calm down, brother. Calm down." Bhim did what he did only to keep his promise. Duryodhan may be your people, but he is the enemy of our allies, the Pandavas. He committed heinous crimes and now has to suffer for his sins. Balaram was not happy with Krishna's logic. "Whatever you may say, I still can't support what Bhim did to Duryodhan. Bhim will have to suffer for this." Saying this, Balaram stepped into his chariot and left. Duryodhan tried to lift his torso with his hands and cried out in pain, Krishna, Krishna, you are responsible for my misfortune. It was you who reminded Bhim of his promise. Don't think I didn't notice you talking to Arjun and Arjun gesturing to Bhim. You have been playing dirty all along. It was you who used Shikhandi to kill Bhishma. It was you who spread the lie about Ashwatthama's death to kill Drona. It was you who compelled Arjun to kill an unarmed Karna. If you had played fair, the Pandavas could have never defeated us. Duryodhan couldn't stay up any longer. He fainted and collapsed to the ground. Duryodhan's criticism made the Pandavas uncomfortable. Unable to counter his arguments, they stood with their heads hung in shame. Krishna smiled and said, "Don't pay attention to Duryodhan's whining. It isn't unusual to leverage unconventional strategies to win a battle. For ages, people and gods have resorted to deception and other means to defeat a more powerful enemy. You would have never been able to kill Bhishma nor Drona in a fair and straight battle. That's why I suggested a little trickery to expose their vulnerability, and they fell for it. At the end of the day, we succeeded and they failed. We won and they lost. Now enjoy your victory and prepare for the days ahead." The Pandavas mounted their chariots and headed back to their camp, leaving behind an unconscious Duryodhan by the banks of Lake Taipayan to die a gruesome death.
The Stories of Mahabharata is written, directed and told by Sudipta Bhawmik. Audio engineering, original music and sound design by Avi Ziv. Find us online at facebook.com/Mahabharata podcast. Join the group for updates and news. Subscribe to the podcast using iTunes or any other podcast catcher. On Twitter, we are at Mahabharat Audio.